Hello, everyone. Good to see everybody, or at least have you see me. I'm imagining your faces, so it feels like we're looking at each other. Um, I just wanted to say welcome. We are going to do an intro to payment plans. I'm Joseph Schooland. I'm an account manager here at Populi. You might already know me, or you might have Nick as your account manager, or maybe you haven't talked with your account managers. You deal mostly with our support team. A bunch of great folks over there too that you've probably interacted with. Excited to get going. And so just a couple housekeeping tips and notes. I'd love to take your questions as we go. Actually, I'll probably explain everything first and then get questions at the end. But definitely put your questions in as you think of them. Don't worry about having to try and remember them or whatever. And I'll just grab them at the end and go over them there. There's a Q&A box. And so that's where I want you to put your questions. That's the easiest place for me to keep track of which questions I've answered and which ones I haven't. We don't have a lot of people on the call today, but definitely if a lot of questions come in, it's much more helpful for me to get all your questions answered. So put those in the Q&A. I think there's other ways for you to talk through the chat box or whatever, but those often get lost. So Q&A, not the chat. And I'm going to kill my video and share my screen, and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, you should see my screen right now. It's my fake college called schooland.populyweb.com. And yes, that is my real last name. My name is Joseph Schooland. Let's go ahead and jump in. There's a few things I always start with. If you've been on any one of these calls, then you probably know where I'm going. But I always love to just make sure every single user that ever touches Populi knows how to find help if they need help. We love helping people. We love making sure that our support team loves their jobs, loves their lives, loves what they do, loves interacting with you guys, and is able to give you guys great help. So we want to encourage you in that. And I know that most other places, me included, where I might reach out to try and get some help from a support team, it's not always the best experience. And we want that to be really great. So here's how you get help. Click the help in the top right corner. If you're the type who likes to research on your own, you can dig here through this search the knowledge base. If you want to reach out to us, you can open a support request. If you want to view support requests you've submitted in the past, you can do that here. We'll also email you every time that we reply and stuff like that. If you have an idea for us, make a feature request. And if you want to interact with our other clients, just to say, how do you guys use Populi or whatever, you can visit the user forum. This is sort of like an email, but email isn't the only way you can reach out to our support. We do phone and email support for all faculty and staff across all of our schools. I think we're up to about 500 schools now. And so phone and email support for everybody. If you want to give us a call, it's 877, the number 4, and the word Populi, 8774 Populi. It's also on our website, also in the help section, so you can track that number down if you forget it. We also provide support for your students, although that's email only. And sometimes we just have to refer them to you guys because they're asking us questions about their grades or whatever. But we do the best we can for your students. Here's the knowledge base. The most important part of the knowledge base is going to be promoted articles. This is probably where you saw today's group training. So you probably already know about this. This is getting started if you're new to Populi, or even if you've been around for a while but weren't a part of the setup, or if you're starting to set Populi up right now. This is a great, it lists all the tutorials in order so that you know which tutorials to do first and how to set up each section of Populi. Here's how to contact us. If you forget our number, that's where you can find it. We'll also post anything for, if you guys are using API access keys, then we're going to post action required if we change something about that. And then these different bubbles we can drill in on. Today we're going to go to student billing. And one of the easier ways is I'm going to go through the getting started, but I'm going to go straight down here to payment plans. This gives us a quick overview. And in this article, we can dig a little deeper to how to actually set up a payment plan. And notice how there's links throughout. So once I get to the bottom of this, I could see, oh, here's an article that describes how now to use it. So there's an article that said how to set it up. Now we got a link to a new article, how to actually use it. So that's one way to kind of click through and find those payment plan articles. I'm not going to spend any more time here, but you can dig through there later on your own. We also have a YouTube channel. You can see interviews, new features, these events that I'm doing right now. And if you want to dig deeper, you can go into all our videos and try and search for different things as they come. You can also reach out to your account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is, you can reach out to support and ask them, and you can schedule one-on-one training via webinar like this, except you have your sound turned on and we'd be talking about you and your specific situation instead of generally for a group. All right, that's how you find help. Lots of different ways to find help. Just choose your own adventure. Pick what is best for your type of personality and your tech savvy level and your newness to Populi level, and have fun with it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into payment plans. To set up a payment plan, I'm going to go to Financial, Billing, and then in this row, I'm going to see a Settings button, and we're going to go to Payment Plans. This is where I set up essentially a template. And then as I apply these to students, then I can tweak it for each individual student depending on their particular circumstances. I only have 2 templates set up here, but I could set up 6, I could set up 10. I know some schools that kind of have a unique payment plan for every single student they have. So if you're a school like that, you're probably going to want to still set up just one template and then sort of change it on a student by student basis. Or if you kind of have 3 kind of defaults that you go to and then you tweak from there, I would set up those 3 and then at the student level, change it on that student by student basis. But in short, this is where you can kind of get a lot of your work cut out for you because you're setting up the basic way that you always do payment plans. Here, we'll set it up, test payment plan. Notice how I just clicked, we'll go back just to make sure, but add a payment plan. All you gotta do, give it a name. Test payment plan. Here's some optional features here. I can give this payment plan a fee. That means it's going to charge the student something just to use this. It's gonna add another fee on top of all their invoices. I can only pull from fees that I've already created. So if you don't know how to create fees, then you have to go back here to fees and create those. We have other videos on those, or you can reach out to support to ask about that. And we'll go ahead and do, I'll just call it payment plan. We'll call it this one, basic plan fee. I can do a flat fee amount, or I could do a percentage. Maybe this is 5% of whatever their existing charges are that are going to be in the plan. What about a late payment? I can also do that. I could do just a flat fee, or I could do a percentage. I could also give it a maximum so that it doesn't charge them forever. Should I give them a grace period? This is so that if they're a day late, they're not going to get charged for that fee. Maybe I'll give them a 3-day grace period. Minimum amount. This is where this only invoices that have at least this number, let's say we do $1,000, will qualify for this payment plan. So if you have some one-off little invoices with little fees that maybe just had 50 bucks on them or $200, you will not be able to apply those invoices or those invoices will not qualify for this payment plan. For now, I'm just going to leave that at 0 and leave that optional. We won't use it. Financial aid. This is a great button to check here. Subtract scheduled aid before calculating student payments. As you know, if you're giving out financial aid, even though the student is approved for that aid, they might not be receiving their check until a month from now or whenever it's all finalized and done and dispersed. So if I check this box, then Populi is going to take that into account so that they're not paying too much as they're waiting for their financial aid to come. We're assuming they're going to get their financial aid and making the payment plan based on that assumption. It just decreases your chances of having to write a refund check. We can round it if we want. And we can allow payers to use this plan for automatic recurring payments. This is where a student can opt in to use this payment plan on their own without you giving it to them. They can just grab it when they go online. And when they opt in like this, they're also opting in to have it auto draft from their account. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. I'm going to leave this eligible charges all. That means that all types of tuition and fees and room plans, meal plans, everything is going to go into this payment plan. You could change that around if you wanted. Maybe no, none of this, only tuition can go on this payment plan, and everything else has to be paid separately. Now we're down to the actual payment plan schedule. By default, you have two payments. One is payment one, and the other is balance due. Balance due is always going to be your last payment. So you always have to think that this payment plan is one more than whatever the numbers are. So this is payment one and then balance due. We'll look a little closer at that in just a sec. Before I want to do that, I want to show you the different types of schedules. We can do based on calendar dates. This is where I have to put in exact numbers, January 1, and we can automatically choose the year, or I can choose a specific year. Based on number of days into the term, this just whenever the term starts and the payment plan you applied it to within that particular term, it's going to count from there forward. Based on when the payment plan was applied. So if I started this 3 days before the term or 15 days after the term, doesn't matter. It's going to start counting from whenever I gave them the payment plan. And then finally, this is the easy one, recurring fixed amount payments. This is where I just choose how often they get charged, every month or greater intervals by months. And then I choose a day of the month. Let's say it's due on the 5th day of the month, and I just give some amount, 500 bucks. Essentially what's going to happen is that whenever they owe you something, they're going to get charged $500 for that month until it's all gone. And so if a student owed you $2,000, it would take 4 months. If they owed you $10,000, it would take 20 months. For this example, we're going to go based on when the payment plan was applied, and we're going to add a few more payments. I'm going to make this a 5-payment plan. Notice how we now have number 1, 2, 3, 4, and then balance due. So that's 5 payments. If I want, I can get really specific about this and break out by charge type. So I could say this first payment is all the fees have to be paid in this first payment. Whereas tuition is just going to be 20% and 20% and 20%. So 1/5 until tuition gets all the way paid. And then that final 20% will land in the balance due. We're going to keep it simple for now. And I'm just going to go 20% across the board. So we've got 20% for payment 1, 20% for payment 2, for payment 3, for payment 4, and then balance due. So balance due is essentially the catch-all. It's the final payment, and it just grabs everything that the student didn't cover. So if they skipped a payment along the way, if they were late and they got charged an extra fee, but they didn't factor that in when they paid you, that's going to end up in balance due. Or let's say you want a 3-payment plan, but you can't really truly split something into thirds, then whatever the little bit bigger by a couple pennies is going to be in your balance due. So that the reason we have a balance day for the last payment is to catch anything that might have happened along the way to make sure you guys get paid in full. I'll do this first payment to be 30 days in, 60 days, 90 days, 120, 150. All right. I could also do dollar amounts if I want. You're probably not going to do that as often because maybe different students will have different amounts total. So usually doing a percentage will just save you a little bit of time. Let's go up here and click save. Now that I have it created, I can delete this plan or edit this plan. I can also see it on my list. Click back into it, get back to my edit buttons. So here we have it, test payment plan. So that's setting up your template. your template for your payment plan. Let's go in all the different ways you can now add payment plans to students. We're going to go to Simon student. If you've worked, if we've talked before, you know Simon student's my favorite student. He's the one who I use to do all kinds of testing on. There are 3 different ways, or 3 different places, 3 different levels, we'll say it that way, 3 different levels in which you can apply a payment plan. One is at the student level. And what this does is it lets you, it's right here on the dashboard, the front page, when you go to financial on the student's profile. And when I hit add a payment plan, I can choose any invoice across all terms. So at this level, I can just pile everything in here if I want, select all or clear all. And then Populi is going to give me a quick preview. Remember, this is a 5 payment plan. And it's from today when I start. So we've got June, July, August, September, October. So that's one way, is do it at the student level, and I can grab all invoices across all terms. The other way is to do it at the term level. If I add a payment plan at the term level, then I can only choose payment plans within this particular term. And it's going to cut out all the other payment plans. Sorry, I can only choose invoices within this particular term. It's going to cut out all the invoices and not reveal them to me. And then finally, I can click on an invoice itself and apply a payment plan to just this one invoice. So those are the 3 levels. The student level, which means I can apply it to all invoices across all time that have ever happened to the student. I can also do it at the term level, which means I can only apply it to some grouping of the invoices in that term, either all of them or just a few of them. I check the boxes to decide which, or I can go to an individual invoice and apply it there. I'll tell you that the most common is going to be just add a payment plan here across all invoices. So we choose which payment plan we want to add, and I'll go ahead and select all the invoices. I can see a quick preview. Notice down here we don't have any payment plan information, but once I hit save, now we've got a built-out payment plan. I can also see what's due overall, what needs to be paid now, what's due over the next few months, and so on. And so remember how I said this was a template? This little settings button, these 3 dots, I can click on that and I can recalculate it based on today. I can remove it. I can show the details, or I can edit those deadlines. So let's say Simon gives me a call and he says, listen, I'm going to be 10 days late this month. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. We'll bump that due date out 10 days. Or he says, I can't pay at all. Remember that amount due, that balance due, that's the 5th payment. We've got that down here. Well, if I just say, okay, well, if you can't pay this month at all, that's fine. We'll let you skip until the next month. And I delete this deadline. Now that balance due is twice as much as it was before. Everything falls into that balance due. If I want to say, you know what, we can bump this out a little bit, and I can add a new deadline and say this is going to be October 17, 2020 for 544.20. And I also want to bump this out to November. There we go. So now I've kind of just bumped it down a little ways. I can also see which invoices this payment plan contains. And there you go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete this payment plan. We're going to reset it because there's one other thing I want to show you, and that's how the student can opt in to that payment plan. But before we go there, if you have access to both financial and academics, then you have access to the financial information inside the data slicer. And here I can apply or remove payment plans in batch. I just need to create some kind of filter. I just grabbed age real quick, which doesn't really make sense for this example, but I can make this as complicated or as simple as I need to. Drill down in here, and rather than using personal or student information, I can even drill down on specific financial information. And then once I'm ready, I can apply payment plans in batch. The only two levels you can apply here are student and term. You can't apply the individual payment plans to individual invoices. And I can choose my payment plan, and I just hit save and go. And what it's going to do is it's going to automatically apply it to all of them and all of those invoices at that level. If I do term, then it's going to, for whatever term I choose, apply whatever invoices will fit under that payment plan. So I can't really choose to leave some invoices out if I want, like I can when I'm going to the individual student. But there is a way to apply it in batch. All right. I mentioned before, there's that online setting so that if a student has to pay an invoice and you've connected us to your credit card merchant, then they can pay their invoices online. I know for sure that this works with Stripe. If your merchant with us is Stripe, you probably need to check with support to see if this works with authorize.net. I believe it does, not 100% sure. But this is how it works. When the student logs in, they'll see they have unpaid invoices, or maybe overdue unpaid invoices. And they go to their payment page, enter their payment information, and then down at the bottom, they're going to have some choices. This is a one-time payment. They can just pay some amount monthly on whatever day of the month, and it will auto draft forever. Or they can choose a payment plan. This option will only show up if you have some payment plans checked with the online payment plan option that I showed you earlier. If they choose that, then they can choose the payment plans that you have set there as options. I have two, and here's a quick preview. If I choose this one, I've got another preview. And then when we begin payment plan, then it's gonna go and it will auto draft on those dates. We also, just like if you have any auto payments set up anywhere for anybody, your utility bill or whatever, we're going to send them an email telling them the exact amount, what's going to be drafted at that time. And they can opt out. I mean, if they're going to have insufficient funds, they can kill it real quick. They can call you guys up and you guys can have control over it and see what's going on there and change the due date and stuff like that. But we do notify them before it hits their bank account or their credit card. Finally, that we do have some reporting that's specific to payment plans. We have payment deadlines. This actually isn't specific to payment plans. It's specific to all due dates. So if I reset the filter here, then Populi will show me all due dates for any payment. So I can see what's going to be due on a particular date, who that student is, what term it's for, what type it is, whether it's a payment plan or just an individual invoice, and its status, overdue or due now, what the amount was originally due, and what it is currently due. This would be like if it's got some fees put in it, or it's growing for some reason. And so here I can do a due date. I could even do this for next month. I could do this out into the future. So I could say choose a date range for next month, June 1 to June 30. I don't think I have any data set up to show this, but we'll see. I've got one. So I can see, okay, well, this is the money that I should expect to receive from payment plans and from everything next month. At least this is what is due. And if you have some number that you can apply to how much you typically collect, then you could apply that to this number. I typically collect 95% or 80% or whatever, 90. I don't know what the numbers might be. And then so you could expect that that's probably what's going to come in to your bank account next month. And you can do different things too, not just by due date, but by individual student, by a particular term, by a type, which would be invoice versus payment plan. by status, which would be due. And this could be due, date, just anything that's due at all, now, later, or overdue. Due later, due now specifically, overdue specifically, so you can drill down. And I could even say what has been paid, on time or late, paid on time, late, and what I've marked uncollectible. And then the final reporting tool is recurring payments. This is where if anyone has opted into a payment plan, you can see what that looks like. Sorry, this isn't, this recurring payments I think would be if they said they just want to pay some amount monthly. It will show up here and you can see what date that's going to be taken out. We have the exact same feature in donations, and I think I've got an example over here. I don't, unfortunately. To wrap this up, let me I'll show you what that looks like on the recurring payments. I'm pulling something up on my other screen, so you can't see it right now, but you will see it in just a second. All right, so here we go. If I've got some students in recurring payments, then I can see what plan it might be, or if it's just the simple, they opted in every month, what the student's name is, who the payer is. Sometimes the payer might be different than the student because they sent that payment amount to their parent or whatever. When the end date is, the last time they were charged, the day of the month it gets drafted on, how many times they've been charged, how many times are left, if it's going to expire. Because some of these, it's just until they cancel. So it's not going to have an expiration date. And then whether it's a credit card or e-check, whether it's active or canceled and an amount, and they'll give you some warnings if you need them. And these are your setting buttons. So they call you up, you can show a history or even do things like change the payment info amount. They call you up and say they need to change their credit card. You can do that here. Change the schedule. So that is instead of the 3rd day of the month, the 5th day of the month. Resend management link email. So that way, instead of you messing around with it, you can just send it off to the student and they can have a management link email so they can click on that and mess around with themselves. Pause it or cancel it altogether. So these are when the student themselves opt in on the payment page. Then the reporting for that will go here. That is everything I have for payment plans. Any questions? Looks like we don't have any questions. If you're frantically typing your question, I'll talk for just a little longer to give you a chance to hit enter so I can see it. But if you don't have any questions, then that's great. Here we go. How do you report a payment made by cash or check? Daniel asks. How do you report a payment made by cash or check? Good question. So this is the same with all payments, even if they're not payment plans. If someone's going to pay you outside of the payment window with the credit card or e-check, then on the financial tab, you'll be able to see record a payment. And you choose the posted date, the amount that they're going to pay. Maybe it's a check for $500. Method, reference number. Maybe you're going to put the check number in here. Which account is it going to go into? These are asset accounts. And then hit save, and that will record it. By default, it's going to fill in the oldest invoices first that qualify for this payment. Some of them will be skipped because there's some expected aid that's going to hit that invoice. And so by default, it's just going to go oldest to newest, but you can override any one of these that you want. And so it kind of filled everything up until here and then ran out of money. and now we're at 0. Della asks, how do you get recurring payments set up so users can select them? Really, this is, I don't know, I think I have a whole video on this, but you need to set up payment gateways. So you need to go to financial and then settings. There's some general settings you want to look over here. You want to make sure all your online payment settings are filled in. There's some things that are just required, like you need to have some kind of privacy policy and refund policy. This is because the terms of service for any credit cards just require this kind of thing for the entity that's doing that. That would be you guys. So we're just making sure you guys are doing that. You can do convenience fees and so on. And once you've got that all set up, then you can open up a payment gateway and choose Stripe. Just connect to Stripe. That's the fastest way. It's just like a page that you got to fill out. Or Authorize.net. Fastest way is to sign up for Authorize.net with Moolah, but you can also put in your specific details here if you want. And once you've got all that set up, then you can, there's a setting here, recurring payments. So this would be simple only, means they just opt in to say, I want to pay this every month. Plan only, which means the only thing they can do is choose which plan they want, or either one they can choose between, which is what I had it set at, where they could choose to pay this amount every month, or the plan, and you could even have it disabled. That's probably where it's at right now if it's not working for you. Oh, and then the final thing, Della, I'm not sure if you were here, but make sure for your payment plans, you have this turned on, this box checked next to online. That also has to be done. All right, Tammy asks, is there a way when a student opts in for a payment plan that they don't have a choice of payment plans to choose from? We may set up special payment plans for some students that we wouldn't offer to all students. We wouldn't want them to have the option to choose a special payment plan. Yeah, Tammy, so what you would need to do is just make sure that you only have the online thing checked for that one basic payment plan that you have. And then the rest of the payment plans, there are no options. So notice here I've got basic, long-term, and test. Long-term cannot be used for automatic recurring payments. So because that's not an option, then when I go to this payment amount, one-time payment, this is the simple monthly amount, or choose a payment plan, I only have 2 to choose from. The long-term doesn't show up there because I turned that setting off for that particular plan. So just make sure all your settings are off for all your plans except for that one that you want all the students to go through. Muriel, how do you record a housing deposit that is refundable? That's a little different than a payment plan question, but since we don't have many others, I'll go ahead and jump into it. First, you need to create a fee that is tied to a liability account. So you first need to create some kind of liability account, maybe call it deposit or housing deposit on your chart of accounts. You'll be able to dig into some videos on YouTube to get deeper into this. You'll also be able to reach out to our support team to ask questions. But once you choose a liability account instead of an income account, notice how this extra feature pops up called deposit. And so I can make this a deposit if I want. And so then here's one I have already set up. This one says, yes, is a deposit. And so when I charge this to a student and they pay it, that unique fee won't be lumped in on your invoice like all the rest. It'll have its own little special section right here called deposits held. Right now, this is unpaid. So it's been charged, but he has an invoice, but he hasn't paid it yet. Once he pays it though, then I can do some different things, like I can apply it to the student's account, I can refund it to the student, or I can mark the deposit as forfeit. They don't get it. And each time I do this, I could say I want to apply 50% to the student's account, hit save, come back in here and say 50 refunded the student, hit save, and so on. Or maybe if it was a housing allowance and they trash something, maybe they'll get 50% refunded, but 50% marked as forfeit, and you'll just save it each time. Any other questions? And any of you, definitely don't be shy to reach out to support and ask any other questions that pop into your head shortly after this, whether it's email or phone. Love to hear from you. And dig around on our YouTube channel if you want to see some of our old trainings. I don't see any other questions coming through, so it looks like we're going to wrap up. Really enjoyed this time with you guys, and I hope you're all doing well. And let us know if there's any other ways that we can help. Take care, everybody.